One of the best programs you're going to ever learn how to use as an engineer is Microsoft Excel. You're going to use this not only in your classes, but you're going to use this in many different applications in your professional and personal lives. Excel comes with the Microsoft Office suite, so if you haven't gotten the Microsoft Office suite yet, you definitely need to do that. As a student, you can get it for free if you just go to the Microsoft website and look for Office 365 for students. You can download that on your computer for free. Let's get started by opening a Microsoft Excel workbook. So Excel is the green tile with the X. One Excel document is what we call a workbook. In the workbook, you can have different sheets, and you can put different information in each sheet. The interface looks a lot like Microsoft Word and Microsoft PowerPoint. It has what's called a ribbon interface. These tabs up here open up different ribbons for different functionalities and things that you would want to do. The interface is very similar to Microsoft Word and PowerPoint. You should have a general idea how to format and do different things within the document. Looking at the interface, your Home tab is going to be one of the main tabs that you use, in addition to Insert. The way a Microsoft spreadsheet is laid out is it has individual cells. You're going to put individual pieces of your information into each cell, and within each cell you can format and style it in different ways or have it do different things dependent on if you're formatting data or just putting in information within the cells. The cells are numbered and lettered by column and row. The columns have letters and the rows have numbers, much like your breadboard having your rows numbered and your columns labeled. When you click within a cell, you can start putting information in, whether that's letters or numbers. Excel will recognize the difference between the two, and you can do different functions based on the information that you put in. Let's start by putting some information in Excel. I collected a few 470 ohm resistors and measured their resistance values, and I'll put their values here. One I measured to be 468.2, 471.6, 472.2, 467.9, and 473.4. Now that we have our data in Excel, let's start doing some different analysis techniques. The first thing I notice is if I were to ever open this Excel file up again later, I would look at these numbers and not know what they are. So you want to practice good formatting techniques, and anytime you put information in Excel, you want to label it with either a heading or some type of label, title, or identifier. So I want to go above A1, cell A1. Notice I click on it and I can see that it's A1. It's my first piece of information. I want to go above that cell and put a label, a heading on it. And so in order to do that, I need to insert a row here. And so I can click on the row that I want to insert, right click and press insert, and it automatically inserts the row and moves the data down. Notice I can do that the same thing in a different section of my document. You can keep inserting more and more rows. Now I have A1 open for me to label. So I'm going to put a label here of resistance, and then I'm going to write ohms, because anytime you put numbers, if they have units associated with them, you should always put units there as well. Now my resistance values are ohms, and notice how resistance ohms spans over into B. Now if I click B1, you can see here in the dialog box that there's no information typed into B1, but when I click out, it looks like there is because that ohms expands over to B. If I click A1, you can see that information is only put in A1. You can expand your column to have it fit within A1 a little bit better. You can also do things like triple clicking between the columns, and it automatically fits it accordingly. Now notice the look of the cursor is very important. If you hover over a column and there's just a down arrow, that allows you to click on that specific column, but if you're in between the two columns, it puts a cross with arrows on the horizontal portion of the cross. Once it has that look, you can triple click and it'll automatically open the cell and fit it to the data. Now for my personal preference, I don't necessarily love that resistance in ohms is so long, and I might want to move ohms into its own line. If I click into resistance and I hit enter, notice it doesn't let me move it into its own line. It just makes my cursor go into the next cell. In order to make it go into the new line, this is a quick shortcut that I recently learned about. You can hold Alt and press enter. It keeps it in the same cell, but moves it to the second line in that cell. Now I can make my information just a little bit more compact and triple click make that column a little narrower. I also like to do some formatting techniques by maybe making this all centered and maybe making my heading bold and gray, just so it kind of stands out from the data. Now notice, because I made it bold, it made my column a little bit smaller, so I can just expand it again and make it look a little bit more how I want it to look. Now one of the things that you can't see is that I have each one of these resistors labeled. Resistor 1, resistor 2, resistor 3, resistor 4, resistor 5. I want to go in and add a column so that I can label these resistors as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So in order to do that, I can click on this column just like I did with my rows, insert the column, and then I'll call this resistor number, and then I can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now I can do that, but imagine if I had 50 pieces of information, I'd have to number each one of those. Excel is intuitive and it understands what you're trying to do sometimes, and you can use that to your advantage. So if I put a 2 here, Excel recognizes that I'm increasing by 1, 2. This next one, it's going to think that I want it to be a 3, and I do. So but what you do is you can highlight your cells, and in the bottom corner, you can carry your cursor down there into the bottom right corner. Notice how your cursor moves from a thick white cross to a thin black cross. Hold your left mouse button and drag down. Look at the corner by your cursor. It gives you a preview of what's going to be put in that individual cell. So I can see that this is going to be a 4, this is a 3, and the last one's going to be a 5. If I release, it automatically populates those values. Now Excel is only as smart as you tell it to be. If I did not put a 2 there and I just tried to highlight it and bring it down from that 1, it only thinks you want 1s in that cell. You can also do things like increasing by 2. So instead of going from 1 to 2, if I go 1 to 3, the next number is going to be 5, 7, 9, because it knows that I want it to increase by 2. So it's really neat, the different things that Excel can do as far as that goes. You can use it to increase your efficiency and make things a little bit easier as you're doing different calculations and analysis. Now that I have my resistors numbered, I want to give this column the same formatting as my column B. One of the quick tools that you can use in order to do that is you can highlight a column or any individual cell that has a format that you want to replicate. You can click this paintbrush. Now this paintbrush is something that's in Word and PowerPoint. I personally believe this is one of the most underutilized tools in those software. Is you can click the format painter, it copies the entire format of what you have highlighted, and then you click, it'll replicate that format in the cells that you tell it to replicate it for. Now we have our resistor number, so I know that my resistor 1 was 468.2 ohms. My resistor 4 was 467.9 ohms.